Today's episode, we are talking about trapped emotions, reincarnation, and ancestral trauma. Three of my favorite topics and topics that have been a huge part of my life when I first commenced this healing evolutionary journey. And joining me for this conversation today is a beautiful friend of mine, energy healer, psychic, and all-round awesome person, Anushka. So welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing, amazing. So before we start, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
Oh, I had toast with avocado and some QP mayo.
Nice.
You know? Yeah. Amazing. What did you have?
So I had a piece of toast. It was jalapeno sourdough bread with a cup of tea, and then I had a bowl of yogurt with protein powder and like mixed seeds and nuts and granola on top. So it was pretty good.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty yum. So for the people listening, introduce yourself. How did you get into this work of energy healing and working with trapped emotions? And yeah, give us a little bit about your background and how you came to be here.
Awesome. So for me, I've always been a sensitive child. So I basically, since I was little, I was always, I guess named the oversensitive one, and would feel a lot of emotions that I couldn't quite comprehend, and would always have this underlying constant anxiety within me throughout my whole life. Was a bit like, almost like, I guess, like not a recluse, but I was like so deathly just shy to the point where it was just difficult for me to even build relationships when I was little. But I just always felt like, for example, I'd always feel like if I was in a room by myself, I'd feel like I'm not really by myself. And, and I would always feel like I could, especially if someone didn't like me, I could just like, they could be completely nice to me, but I would just know there was something in them that just did not like me. And it was just this knowing, right, that you couldn't explain. But if you said it to someone, they'll be like, oh, it's in your head. You're just being insecure. And, the usual stuff that people call you. And yeah, from there, like, you can't even like give any proof about it, right? Proof on it, like, oh yeah, it's because of this, this, and this. Like, it's just like, this is just how I feel. Like, I don't know how to make sense of it for you. So that was interesting. And then growing up, I always had these, like, I guess I couldn't explain it up until like maybe my late 20s when I actually stopped. But I actually had these images popping in my mind as a kid. As I was going to sleep, I would have these images of people that I didn't recognize, I've never met in my life, just waving at me, just like literally just waving at me. And I'd be like, I don't know these people, like, why are they popping up? Especially because I was just like, you just think that it's your imagination and that you're building, like you're creating this image, right? But I'd have like, it would be like people in pairs or people by themselves or in groups, and they'd always be waving. And it wasn't until my late 20s that I realized, I'm just like, oh, that's spirit. That's actually spirit trying to get my attention. And funnily enough, that's when it stopped happening.
Interesting. Like, oh. That's so cool. Like the moment you recognized it and like almost they just were like, cool, we don't.
Yeah. And I was kind of pissed about it because I was just like, well, like now I know this, like why isn't it continuing? But I have it, like it does still occur to some capacity, just not, they're not waving anymore. They're just kind of just showing their face. But it wasn't until my dear friend passed away in 2020 that I really started connecting in more. She showed up to me after she passed in the middle of the night, which was lovely. it's kind of funny now, but like she showed up to me in the middle of the night, the morning that she was being cremated, almost like to say bye. I didn't know she was being cremated that day, and it was almost like she showed up to say bye. I screamed and went back to bed.
That's like, you know, that's so cool. But it's like, I mean, I could imagine for the first time, you know, and when you started like experiencing and, you know, people waving to you and you were going to sleep, like it would have been a bit like scary. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but just like, what the heck is going on? And then like, because I imagine they come at times like when you're not expecting it. It's not like you go to sleep them to come and they come, like they come at various different moments and time.
100%. I feel like back then it was more confusing than scary. When I realized what was happening, I was like, that is cool. Like, what could I do with that? I don't know. But like, I thought it was cool. But then, I mean, even to this day, when like someone just pops up, it's kind of like having an uninvited guest, right? It is essentially that. Just a stranger showing up in your house. It's still going to be freaky. The only thing is like there is that comfort in knowing there isn't someone physically there, because I find that more scary than having a ghost in my house, you know?
Yeah, totally. And so what then came from that? Like when your friend turned up the day that she was being cremated, like did your connection just continue to get stronger and stronger? Like what kind of evolved past that?
Well, the funny thing is, so after that, I guess because I always saw like corner of the eye phenomena, I always like would see things like through mind's eye, but again, you always dismiss it, right? And I kind of feel like she showed up to be like, it is real, like, and she knew in life that I was into ghosts and all that stuff, and it just felt like she was giving me that confirmation. And a year later, around her 1 year anniversary, I actually connected in with a medium and booked in an appointment with her because I needed that extra closure around my friend as well. And of course, my friend was just like, you know, taking over the whole chat basically, and showed up, and, you know, it was all very accurate details and stuff like that the medium gave me. She even gave me told me how she passed, which I only found out the night before from her brother who told me. And then the medium gave all those details and more. And I was just like taken away, blown away by it all. And then basically that same medium, she was advertising a few months later, she was advertising a psychic development course. And I just had this pull and I was just like, I have to do it. So we had a chat and she was just like, it's this much, this is what we're working on. I'm like, yep, done, I'm in. And that was it. Like from there, that was actually I think that was in 2021. I actually started doing the psychic development course, working on my abilities and stuff like that. And then the rest is history. Like somehow I ended up doing the emotion code. Like I had a body code practitioner that did emotion code and body code for me as well to help with my grief and other things in my life. And then from there, it's just like she encouraged me to start doing emotion code too. And that's where I ended up. Like
amazing, so good. So for those that don't know emotion code, tell us a little bit about this and also about how like different energies and emotions can get stuck and trapped within the body. And yeah, do you have any personal like stories or personal experiences around this as well?
Oh, 100%. So basically the emotion code is when we release trapped emotions from your body through energy healing. So you can use muscle testing or intuition. I prefer intuition, as you would know as well. Like I just trust it more as well. And basically what I do is I help you identify trapped emotions. So you may have like a particular negative pattern in your life that that has come from a certain situation. You may not even remember that situation. You may not even know it's tied to that situation. But for example, for me, I went throughout my life feeling stupid, feeling dumb, feeling not good enough. And basically, when I went back through the emotion code, I remembered this moment that was identified when I was in, I think it was grade 3, and I said the wrong answer in class, in math class. And the teacher yelled at me because I wasn't paying attention. I was a daydreamer always, and I wasn't paying attention. So she asked me a question. I just guessed a number. and she yelled at me. And from then on, like, I felt so much humiliation, so much shame, embarrassment, all the things, right? And I had this, and because I wasn't able to, I didn't know how to deal with my emotions, especially at such a young age. And I was the type of kid that I would keep it to myself a lot of the time. Because I just didn't want to be told, oh, you know, you're just being sensitive or this or that. And it's crazy that as a young kid that's what we're thinking as well, right? And so I have lost my train of thought, so you might have to edit this bit out.
I love it. So I love that you shared that. And I totally relate, because there's been moments in my own life, and I've had so many experiences where like emotions and energy or like expression has been held within the body, because it hasn't, I personally haven't felt safe to be able to express myself. Or I've had experiences where, you know, a family member or even at school, like I was like ridiculed and judged and humiliated for my like hypersensitivity, and people would like mock me and make fun of me and be like, you know, as you said, like, you're just being sensitive, or it's all in your head. You know, I remember a family member telling me like, just stop crying and go to your room. And that was such a significant moment for me, that had me internalize a deep belief that like my emotions are not safe and that my emotions are too much. And, you know, so, you know, these light, fluffy, or the feel good emotions are okay. They're allowed to be expressed, whereas the other ones, like, they have to be kept hidden within. And, you know, I think it's so great that we live in a time, and I think more and more people are being open to this conversation, and it's becoming more normalized within society and within different groups, to be like, actually, that thing that happened 20 years ago in your childhood, like, just because we're 20 years older does not mean that that situation is not still playing out in our lives. It's not still affecting us in some capacity. And I think, like, for us, like, the empath, the highly super sensitive souls, like, we actually can't escape it. Like, some people can override it with their mind, and they can kind of like defragment with their mind. But for us, like, it lives in our body. And, you know, I know that so many of my physical challenges and health challenges that I had, like, I could trace it back to a moment in time where an emotion got stuck. And normally they get stuck in like a heightened, if it's like a stressful situation, or whether it's a heightened emotion. Like, has that been your experience too?
Yeah, definitely. So the interesting thing is, like you said, when we're not processing in that moment, we're going to have like, it will get stuck in our bodies if we're not addressing it soon enough. And it can manifest in and come out with, you know, as illness or whatever. But yeah, there can be like a heightened reaction, like a behavioral reaction as well in certain times. I know for me as a child, I would get so heightened, and it was always the emotion of like feeling misunderstood or not heard. And if I'm feeling in that state, I can go from 0 to 100 very quickly. And you know, yeah, like it was very intense. And when that would happen, it would add another layer to that trapped emotion too, where I would feel this deep shame in myself for allowing it to get to that point. But that shows there was like, you know, clearly some unresolved trauma and trapped emotions that haven't been dealt with in that time. So 100%, like it can come out in different ways. Like it's like the more we bury it, the more we compartmentalize, that's how trapped emotions occur, because we're just not allowing ourselves to process. Maybe we didn't feel safe enough to process it at the time. And also, like when you think about like childhood trauma, especially the most, I mean, all childhood trauma is significant, but some that are particularly quite traumatic and serious, you'll find a lot of people don't remember their childhood at all because they have disassociated because that was what was safe for them. So trapping those emotions rather than actually dealing with them in that moment was actually survival for them, and it was safer for them to do at the time. Whereas as you grow older, that stuff can, if you're not processing it, if you're not like acknowledging it, that stuff can actually affect your relationships. And it's emotions that no longer serve you, that you no longer need to keep, you know, on your heart wall or in your body. So
yeah, definitely. And like you said, it's related to survival, and it's so true. You know, like we developed these survival mechanisms, these coping mechanisms to keep us safe in that moment, to help us actually get through those periods of life. And then we find ourselves like further down the road and we're like, why is this pattern repeating? Why do I keep attracting the same partner? Or why can't I evolve past a certain level of income? Or like there's so many different situations and scenarios. And so when you're working with trapped emotions, like, are there like the same core emotions that you find continually show up, or is there like a consistent pattern that you observe like in your work and the people that you work with?
So the interesting thing is, so I do use, I'll show you actually, there's a chart, which I am expanding on very soon. But there's basically a chart full of emotions there. And like I said, I identify the emotions through intuition. So I might be like, column A, row 3, number 2. Okay, that's abandonment at age 3. Does that make sense to you? Person says yes or no, or they can elaborate if they wish. They can just, you know, obviously keep it to themselves if they wish, as long as we release it, right? I do find there's a pattern. If there's actually certain weeks, it's really fascinating. There'll be certain weeks where I notice there'll be a pattern of like 2 or more of my clients might actually have similar issues, if that makes sense, or a similar focus. It might be focus on like anxiety, or focus, maybe they have a mother wound, or it could be something financial that they have a blockage around. So it really depends. Like I feel like, I don't know, there's some universal shit in play here because it's really fascinating, because it just seems like there's always some type of pattern, like week to week, really. Some people I find might have a heart wall that they need to actually remove, and that can go over a few sessions to remove that heart wall so they can like maybe improve their romantic relationships or whatever. But yeah, there's patterns in that way, at least.
Yeah, I definitely find that through like different seasons of life, and because like we're all connected energetically and through the cosmos and like astrological, there are like certain common themes that continue to play out like in different weeks and different months, and then through different eclipse seasons, etc., etc. So what like removing trapped emotions, obviously it is not just important for, you know, our energetic health, but what what is like the outcome that we're actually looking for? Like, why would we want to remove trapped emotions?
So firstly, like I said, they're just no longer serving us, right? So they worked as a survival instinct at first, or perhaps we just didn't know how to process it at first. But like as you get older, or as you go through different seasons in life, you will find that they end up acting as a limitation instead. So for example, going back to me saying the wrong answer in class, that took me at like so long to be able to identify that that was an issue for me, because I went through life, if I saw numbers, I would like straight away just feel scattered. I wouldn't want to even speak about numbers, speak about money. Like it just stressed me out. And it's like it took me back to that same stress response I had back when I was in grade 3. And basically, like what happened was I limited myself, limited my growth, whether that was with career or whatever. And it took me so long to come out of my shell and be independent as well. Like, because I felt like I was always needing to get approval from like someone I thought was higher up than me, or like, you know, sorry, my throat's so interesting, throat chakra. It's like I needed to always get that approval or validation, or like I didn't trust my own intuition as well, because I didn't think I was smart enough to do or come to any conclusion on my own. And even to do the work that I do now, like maybe, I mean, I believe that I was meant to do it at the time that I did start doing it. But you know, maybe if I had removed that earlier, I could have been doing it earlier, you know, but because I had that limitation, there were so many things I stopped myself from doing. And that's the beauty of releasing the trapped emotions. The moment that you do release them, you are opening yourself up to more opportunity, whether it's meeting your soulmate, or it's like pursuing your dream career, or, you know, just anything, even friendships, like creating deeper, meaningful friendships as well. So, yeah.
And how do you know that you've released the trapped emotion? Like we can identify it with, okay, there's like a similar pattern going on, or, you know, just through I'm feeling the same emotion when I'm in a particular situation. How do we know that we've released it?
So there's different ways. So I have a lot of clients that, for example, afterwards, I mean, one thing, and this might not be directly related to the issue that they wanted to resolve, if that makes sense, but they'll just feel so much lighter. It's like something that was, because your body feels everything, right? And because your body is just like holding on to these, and it's like your subconscious is trying to protect you at the end of the day. They don't know the difference. If you know, like it's the same as when we say positive like affirmations. If you're saying, oh, I don't want to feel like I'm in pain, your body's still going to be like, oh yeah, feel pain, like cool, like let's do that. But it's not going to notice the difference. That's why even with positive affirmations, you have to say like the positive word, like I want to feel healthy. But it's like your body gets so used to holding on to these trapped emotions that, especially during the processing period afterwards, people feel weird. And some people, not everyone has a different experience, but you know, your body was so used to holding on to these trapped emotions for so long that you might feel a bit lightheaded, you might feel tired, you might actually have these emotions surfacing again during that processing period, for you to be like, okay, I'm going to allow myself to actually feel through it now, so you can 100% like release it from your body. Yeah. And then like after that, like, you know, some people experience just not like, you know, for example, something that they stopped themselves from doing before, like say something dramatic like being on stage, you know, being on stage and talking in front of a group of people might be something that they actually start doing without even having that fear holding them back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And with like your integration, because there's always an integration phase, like as you said, like a processing phase post it. And like generally, how long does it go for? I mean, obviously, I assume every situation is different, where some people process quite quick, so it can be done in like 24, 48 hours. And perhaps if it's a bigger unraveling, that can take weeks.
Yeah, so that's a good question because it is different for everyone. I feel like I've never had someone that, you know, the processing period is only a day, but it can totally happen. It can happen overnight because a lot of people say, oh, healing doesn't happen overnight. It totally can. It is possible, but it depends on your situation as well, right? Yeah. So, you know, it can vary, like between 3 days to 6 days. Some might be longer. So I did mention heart wall sessions before, and heart wall sessions, depending on how many layers you have around your heart wall, it can go for like 1 or more sessions. So that again varies. But like the effects, like the after effects of it, to see results, some people, it varies again. They might see results within days. They might see results within weeks, months, some even like maybe a couple years, but like it depends on how much you're doing as well, because I can do all of this. I can help you, like support you in your healing, but you also need to do the work outside of that as well.
Yeah, right? Yeah, totally. And do you find that some of the trauma and the trapped emotions actually come from previous incarnations? Like, obviously for old souls and like really hypersensitive souls like us, for most of us, we've been here like many times before. This is not our first incarnation. It's not our first soul's experience. And so, you know, where does ancestral trauma, like how does that actually fit in? And do you find that you're actually working with multiple incarnations and lifetimes, not just the one we're currently living?
So it's interesting because it definitely is possible. Like there are a lot of situations where people are carrying something from a previous lifetime. For me, a massive one was fear of drowning. And that was carried on from there. Fear of drowning and abandonment was carried on from past lives, but also you can also have from past lives, but on top of that, from this life as well. So that's fun. But with the emotion code itself, it's been very rare that I've found with this particular work, because a lot of the time my clients want to focus on something. Maybe there was a particular situation that occurred that they need to work through as well. So while it does happen with my particular clients, I haven't had a past life pop up as much, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So should we have a little play? And for the people that are watching this in the video, we're going to do a live demonstration of trapped emotions. And for the people that are listening to the recording, like the audio recording, there will be a clip posted on YouTube where you'll be able to look at the video recording. So let's have a little play and show people how we can release trapped emotions from our bodies. And let's work with the intention of self-worth, because I think it's a really, really big one for so many people, and especially like empaths and starseeds and light workers. So let's set the intention to work on self-worth, and let's have a play for the people that are watching.
Awesome. I'm going to also write down your age just so I can identify
it.
Pardon?
I have to tell everybody how old I am.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
38.
You can text it to me.
38. It's all good.
38. That's a nice number, actually. I love the number 8. some reason. Okay, so let's close our eyes quickly. Just take some deep breaths in and out. Okay, calling all guides, guardians, angels, and ancestors to assist us today, to assist Jasmine today with any issues around self-worth. Please assist me with identifying any trapped emotions that may have led to this emotion or this feeling of self-worth or lack of self-worth. Thank you. Okay. And whenever you're ready, you're welcome to open your eyes. Okay. So there are different types of trapped emotions, but for now I'm getting a common trapped emotion, which is basically an emotion that was trapped yourself in this lifetime. So let's see, column B, row 3, number 2. Column B, row 3, number 2 is defensiveness. Okay, so what age do we get for defensiveness? I'm getting age 12, defensiveness. Does that make sense to you? So it's usually the first thing that pops up in your mind. If you don't remember it in that moment, that's okay too.
I can't actually identify a particular like event or time, but yeah, I definitely identify with the emotion, and there definitely would have been something around 12, but there's not a particular event that's really popping out.
Good. Identify 12. It can go either way. It can go between 11 and 13. Excuse me. I am still getting like some throat chakra stuff popping up actually around this, and I'm realizing it is connected to you around this defensiveness as well. And like I said, it's not always necessary for us to know exactly what happened as long as we get to release it as well. So I'll be using this magnet, and because I'm connected to you right now, I'll be going over my governing meridian, which is connected to your central nervous system, and that assists with like releasing the trapped emotion. And I'll get you to close your eyes, take some deep breaths, and notice anything that you feel while I'm releasing this. I'll release this about 5 times. And 100% release the trapped emotion of defensiveness from Jasmine and to never return again. I 100% release the trapped emotion of defensiveness from Jasmine and to never return again. And take your time with coming out of that. Whenever you are ready, you can open your eyes. How do you feel?
I feel good. My ear was tingling, so and it was like a bit itchy. So
was that your left ear or your right ear?
Left one.
Left. Left is receiving and feminine side, isn't it?
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll just write left here. So it's funny because like sometimes I get images popping up as well, and I had like a colorful parrot. I don't know the names of these parrots. It was red and green and blue, I believe. I don't know if that means anything to you.
I like the red and green, like I immediately identify with like a king parrot.
Yeah, okay.
And there's the rosellas, but they have like more, they also have like yellow, I think, as well.
I think it's a king parrot. Yeah.
Nice. These king parrots can be blue and red, and as well as like red and green.
Oh, amazing. I'm glad you know your birds because I would have been Googling that one. Okay, amazing. And what I usually tell clients as well when animals pop up, and actually a lot of the time I have animals popping up, it's usually symbolizing something as well. Firstly, it can symbolize whether you yourself have some type of connection with that parrot. Maybe there's some type of meaning that you have with that particular animal. But a lot of the time it's just a matter of like, what does that animal symbolize specifically? So yeah, that might be something to look into. Would you like to do another one while we're here?
Yeah, let's do another one for the audience.
Okay, so again, like I said, there's different types of trapped emotions. We've also got inherited, prenatal, there's absorbed. So I'm getting absorbed coming through, which I don't think you'd be very surprised by that, being an empath yourself. Okay, absorbed. Okay, column B, row 5, number 1. Column B, row 5, number 1. Okay, so this is conflict. This is a trapped emotion from someone else. Someone else has felt this emotion strongly, and conflict, I mean, it sounds very like, you know, vague in a way, but conflict would be something that they're feeling within themselves, like conflicted about something in particular. I feel like it is a male. What age was this? 27. So we're going up again. So age 27 from a male. Would that make sense to you? Obviously, you don't have to say who and what happened, but.
Okay. Yeah, a person is coming to mind, a particular name I won't name. Yeah. And yeah, interesting. Conflict.
Yeah. And that makes sense to you?
The emotion of conflict, like I could relate to that particular emotion. Perhaps in relation to self-worth, maybe not so much, but yeah, I reckon it would definitely be intertwined in the web of life and emotions in there somewhere. So yeah, I mean, I feel like if I look at it from like defensiveness and conflict and self-worth, I think that would create, that web could definitely be connected.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, we can release this from both of you, and obviously I won't say his name, I'll just say male figure, and it will still be released from him. And let's close your eyes. I'll say 10 times for this one. So usually when someone else is involved, I release it 10 or more times. Okay. I 100% release the trapped emotion of conflict from Jasmine and the male figure, and to never return again. I 100% release the trapped emotion of conflict from Jasmine and the male figure, and to never return again. I 100% release the trapped emotion of conflict from Jasmine and the male figure, and to never return again. Take your time with that one.
Beautiful.
How do you feel after that one?
I didn't actually feel anything somatically in the body with that one. Amazing.
Awesome. It was really cool because I saw what I would see as, you know, on your Christmas trees, you used to have the angel that would sit on the top of the Christmas tree as a tree topper. That's what I saw. So I do feel like with that, I do feel like someone's showing that they're like looking out for you. And I mean, a lot of the time we are being looked out for, but sometimes we just need that validation and that confirmation that it's actually happening, you know?
Beautiful.
But it just feels like there's a lot of, in particular, there's 2 female spirits looking out for you, and there's 1 male. And I'm feeling like he is like potentially a great-grandfather, maternal side. I don't know if that would make sense to you, but that's what's popping through. So whether you
actually, as you were saying, a male figure, and I was receiving, that my pop, which is on my mum's side, we had a really beautiful connection, and he was obviously, he was my grandpa, not my actual father, but that sounds weird. But he, but as you were saying that, I was like, I feel like it's him. I mean, I was not connected to my great grandparents. And yeah, he was pretty amazing. He was pretty special, and I was actually totally distraught when he passed away. Definitely impacted me the most for that one. So yeah, so cool.
How beautiful. Yeah, it's interesting also with the great grandparents. We don't realize, I mean, even if we haven't met them, some of them, like, because we haven't met them, they're around us even more, if that makes sense. And I feel like it would make sense it's your grandfather as well in that mix, because it feels like it feels like a very nurturing, like, energy from.
And he had that, like, he had a very soft, gentle nature, very nurturing, very caring. I actually remember I have an image pop up that when I was young, and he used to love a beer. And so when he would come round to our house, and I was only like 3 or 4 years age at this time, and he'd sit on the couch and he'd have a beer, and I would like drink the froth, like the yellow frothy part off the beer. Like, that was my favorite part. He'd drink the rest and I'd just take the froth. So yeah, he was so good like that. And my other grandpa, I mean, I just didn't have the connection, and obviously he didn't live as close, but yeah, it was just a totally different connection. And I think that's part why it hurt so bad, because there was so much love and so much nurturance in that. And I definitely feel like he's still up there, looking out for me and protecting me. So what are your thoughts? Like, do you reckon that we reincarnate? Like, I absolutely believe that we do. And I actually love this topic, because I know that, like, for some people they're a little bit on the fence about it. But I really strongly believe in reincarnation. And I also, like, for me, I know that my soul has reincarnated 30 times, and I reckon it's more than that, but I definitely know that I've had 30. And I also, like, with my late, great, beautiful kitty cat, Tilly, who was a female ginger, it was our 8th incarnation together as souls. So, I obviously have evidence and knowingness that reincarnation does exist, but, like, what are your thoughts around that? Do you believe in reincarnation?
It's funny because, like, for me, it was like, I guess it was normalized since I was little about the idea about reincarnation, because I was born Buddhist as well. So thankfully my parents, they would talk about reincarnation all the time as well, like about stories that they've heard. My dad in particular, he actually, apparently when he was little, he would talk about his past life in ancient Egypt, like, and he's always had this fascination around Egypt for that reason as well. He doesn't remember any of what he said back then, but he's just had this pull towards Egypt ever since. And yeah, like, I think there's so many, I know that I've had quite a few reincarnations that I know of, but 100%, we've had so many more that we have identified, than we have identified in this life. I remember when my husband and I, when we were in Lisbon a few years ago, we had some crazy situations, like experiences that led us to identifying two incarnations wow. in Lisbon itself together as well. And it was just insane. I can go into that if you like, but yeah, it was just so fascinating. So
that's so cool, because I often, like, I really believe, and especially as us as, like, highly sensitive and, like, really an advanced souls, that travel for us takes on a completely different meaning and a completely different experience. It's like, yeah, okay, there's a holiday and there's an adventure in it as well, but often we're actually guided to particular places because there is some ancient memory, there's some dormant ancient memories, or we're wanting to connect with another aspect of our soul that has had lifetimes in a particular area. So yeah, like obviously you would relate to that based on that experience.
Yeah, definitely. It was just very, so the experience, this particular one, actually both the experiences we had in Lisbon were very validating for our relationship in particular. And it was, in fact, it was a trip that we took like when we got engaged, actually. So we got engaged on that particular trip. And it was so fascinating to see the things that popped up for us. So for example, I don't remember. So I'm massive when it comes to organizing things. I love organizing. So I planned the whole trip. And basically everything I booked accommodation wise, I, did my research. It was usually like hotels and stuff like that. The accommodation in Lisbon itself, it was not a hotel. I don't remember booking it for the life of me.
Wow.
And yeah, it was crazy. It was an apartment. It was in the center of everything. And I remember we walked up these like dodgy staircase. It was dark. It was already feeling really weird. My husband, Steph, he was feeling like a bit dizzy, like walking up the staircase at the time. And he opened the door to the apartment and he's like, oh, this is really nice. And there was something in me. It was a beautiful apartment, but my stomach dropped when I saw it. And I was just like, oh, like I just felt really heavy. And I was like thinking in my head, I was calculating in my head, okay, we're only here for 3 nights. Most of the time we're going to be out of this apartment, like already thinking that we only have to sleep in here. It's fine. And anyway, it was already ready to leave, basically. We get back into the apartment at night, and before bed I do like my protection, energetic protection and stuff, especially around ghosts, because like God knows we always have ghosts around us if we're connected, right? So just wanted a good bloody sleep that night. And so I was doing my protection. At one stage I was doing a white light through my body, like filling it with white light. But as I was doing that, I automatically saw this little boy just rise up from my crown. And I was like, and Steph was half asleep already. And I was like, that's weird. And he's like, what? And I'm just like, I just saw a like kid just coming from my crown. It was really weird, so random. And I had no idea what that meant. And I just fell asleep straight after, because that's what you do. You just like identify, you see something popping up. It didn't feel like a ghost as such though. And the next day I voice noted one of my mentors, who's actually in England, and she's the one that got me into emotion code and body code. And I voice noted her and I was just like, this happened. I don't know. I don't know if it was just a ghost or, I was just kind of playing it off. I was just like, it's probably nothing. It was just probably in my head. And she gets back to me with this massive reading. And she was just like, that little boy was you. That was from a past life. The apartment you're staying in right now, you were divinely guided to go there because that's actually where you lived. And you died of, you died of chicken pox at the age of, I forget, it was age 6 or 7 or something like that. You died of chicken pox there. And Steph, this part's funny and disturbing. Steph was your father in that child. Okay. And he was just like, he was the owner of this club, basically, that was like nearby to where you're staying right now. And it was called, I think it was called the Bristol Bar. I'll have to look it up. Bristol Club. It was called Bristol Club. And she was like, it's only a few doors down. And I was just like, oh, Bristol Club. Okay, that's crazy. And, you know, there was all this stuff. Like, basically what I saw with this kid as well was he was wearing, in my head, he was a prince, because he was wearing this like royal looking uniform, like a coat that was gold and blue. And he just looked like he was royalty. And what my mentor actually told me was, I felt like royalty because every time I went into the Bristol Club with my father, he would actually, like, he had a little uniform made for me and all the staff would greet me and I actually felt like royalty. So the fact that I showed up in that uniform is because I actually felt like I was royalty. Not that I was, but it was like the feeling that that little boy had at that time, and the connection he had with his father as well. And obviously, Steph and my husband, obviously, we have a very strong connection in this life. So basically, like Steph in that life, he passed away, like basically was overridden with grief after my passing, that he ended up shutting down Bristol Club, all that stuff. So the next day, Steph and I went walking around. We're just like, oh, if this is the number, because she said a number as well. And we walked down the street and there's all like bars and restaurants around that area. And we had a look and we're just like, it looks all boarded up, because a lot of Lisbon, it's very old. It's a very old city. And it's all boarded up where she said it was. And I'm like, oh, that's okay. Like it's closed, whatever. It's not like there's nothing there. And there was this big planter in front of a door. We see the door and there's a sign saying Bristol Club. I have a photo of it somewhere. I have to send it to you. But we just got chills. Like, we're just like, no way. Like, yeah. It was insane, but it just felt like it almost validated our connection as souls with each other, you know? So yeah,
totally. Oh my gosh.
Lives. Yeah. How do you feel? I know I could see you tearing up.
So for the people listening, as Anushka was sharing that story, I had full body goosebumps and like I started crying. Like my emotions, my eyes were welling up with emotion. And I get really strong somatic experiences when I know that something is true, when I know that something is right, like I've hit on something, or it's like my mind doesn't necessarily know or can't, like, doesn't have any evidence to grasp onto. But when my soul and my spirit knows that it's truth, I will, like, my eyes will well up with tears. I'll get shivers down my body. And it's like, oof. So I felt everything you just said. And it was interesting because I know that and I feel that strongly. Like, we are really guided to specific places to like really either anchor, like receive more of our soul, and because our soul has fragments all over this universe in different places. And like for Tilly and I, we were in ancient Egypt together. Like, we had a lifetime, and I remember she actually took me into a particular lifetime or area of ancient Egypt, and she was actually showing me love and power, where I actually had to choose between love and power, and I shut off love to like fully choose power. And then part of like my mission and my experience and my soul's mission within this lifetime was to like find its way back to love, but also have the experience where I don't have to choose between love and something else. So it's so cool. And yeah, like my dad in this lifetime, my biological father, I received information around he and I have been together before. Like, this is not the first time that he's been my father. And that just like blows my mind. I don't have any like memory of the experience or everything. But I have always felt like, even though it was in many ways like a bit of a challenging relationship, there was always this part of me like that I kind of felt him or understood him in a way that other people couldn't. And we actually had similarities around like the challenges and some of the like struggles that we had faced in our lives. And so it blows my mind. Like it doesn't blow my mind, but it does blow my mind, if you know what I mean. And
That's
I like,
amazing.
yeah, I was going to ask you because I really feel like, you know, so much of souls and soul connections, when we have that deep connection with somebody, it's because we've actually had some sort of experience in another lifetime. And I kind of always like joke with people, and it's funny that you said that Steph was your father in that lifetime, because I'm like, what if in another lifetime I actually like gave birth to like my child, and like now in this lifetime we're lovers? Like, do you know what I mean?
It's such a like weird concept because like you don't want to think of it in that way, but like realistically we are souls. You know, souls don't have a gender. Souls are just they just are, right? And so that's why we go in through all these different lifetimes, you know, going between brothers, mothers, sisters, you know, husbands. Like it feels like a twisted movie, but
Yeah. It kind of feels like you are playing Twister, and it's so cool because like our human mind, like we don't have any choice in this, you know, like our soul will reincarnate at exactly the right time when it's meant to, and like we'll have a human experience, and then we'll go like do, you know, continue our journeys and go do our thing in like the spiritual realms. And then when it's time back to like continue that journey, or we actually come in for a mission to be able to serve somebody else, like it's so it's so
fascinating.
Cool. It's so cool.
You're not just incarnating, like you're not reincarnating with just the people that you love either. Like you might have a best friend in another life and you both decided, hey, let's be enemies in this life. Or it could even be something like you had this reoccurring toxic cycle with one particular soul, and you know it could be that you had a toxic relationship with this particular person in a past life, and then again it pops up again, and it could be simply that there is some type of lesson that needed to be learnt in that relationship, regardless of how intense it is. And I do strongly believe, you know, I was in an abusive relationship before, and I do strongly believe we were partners in a previous life as well. And I felt like in this life, my lesson was to just be able to stand up for myself more and to not take shit anymore from that person or anyone. So yeah, it's really fascinating because it's not all like, you know, sunshine and rainbows, right?
Absolutely. And it's like, it's so cool to think that you can reincarnate into anything. Like you could be a human, you could be a dog, you could be a cat, you could be a bird, like you could be a snake. Like there's, and even other expressions, like you could reincarnate into a tree. And it's it's so wild, but in a really good way. Do you know, like it's cool. Like if you're really magnetized and connected to a tree, then hey, like, you know, you've had some sort of soul connection, you know, somewhere that's really connected you through the roots as well. So like when you said that, you know, you had a friend that in a past life it was like a challenge and then you've come back, like do you think ancestral trauma is one of the reasons that we potentially will reincarnate to like address ancestral trauma in this lifetime? And do you think like reincarnation, sometimes like we reincarnate into really difficult families or difficult situations to actually help clear ancestral trauma through the lineage so that can evolve forward?
Yeah, definitely. yeah, there's just so many aspects to it, right? But yeah, I feel like each person has their own, like we're all reincarnated and put together for a reason, right? And, you know, for example, you might have issues with a parent and you might be butting heads constantly, but it could be that you both have something to learn from that relationship. I do have something like a past life story that is connected with ancestral trauma as well, actually, which, like, if you have time, I'm happy to share.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so this one's interesting. I've written notes on it so I don't forget like certain elements of it. So basically, since I was little, I would always be drawn to my granddad's sister. And this is a photo of my granddad's sister that he always has in his room, a portrait. It's black and white. It looks very eerie. She's in a white dress. And I remember from when I was really little, I would always just stop and stare at that portrait. And I'm just like, there's something about it that would just, like, I don't know, hypnotize me almost. And it just felt like I had some type of connection with her. And she had passed. I never met her in real life, in this life at least. And basically my granddad did tell me that she jumped in a well. She was in an abusive relationship. She was quite young. She was pregnant and she jumped in a well and suicided that way, which is obviously very devastating. But I was still like so drawn to her. I'm like, every time I go near that photo, I'm just like drawn in. And anyway, in my early 20s, I had this dream out of nowhere. I think I mentioned before that I do have a fear of drowning, which I have been working on over the past few years in particular. But I've got this fear of drowning. And anyway, I had this dream. It was almost like a dream within a dream. It was like dreamception. So in the dream, I was talking to my mum like we are right now, but we're looking in on another dream, if that makes sense. So it's almost like we're just kind of like commentating. And in that dream, there was this, there was a body of water and there was a cylindrical building in this body of water. And at the bottom, and actually it looked like there was a lid on top of that cylindrical building. Like for me, like straight away, I was like, something's being hidden. And at the bottom of the water, at the bottom was a picnic table. And there were, and this is where it gets morbid. There were like dolls and kids under the water. The kids weren't alive, but the dolls were. So it was like, it was very creepy. But I looked in on that dream. There was nothing else I could see apart from what I just described. And I was looking in on that dream and I turned to my mum and I was like, see, Amma, that is why I'm scared of drowning, because I drowned in a past life. So I'm saying that in the dream. And I woke up from that. I'm like, holy shit, what was that? Yeah. And anyway, time passed. I was just like, yep, cool, drowned in past life. To me, at the time, it just looked like, you know, nonsense, like in a way that it was just like dolls underwater and kids and a bench. And then I had a family constellations workshop, which is basically working on ancestral trauma and stuff like that. And they identified my granddad and they identified his sister who had passed, and they said exactly the same thing. She jumped in a well. She was pregnant at the time, all this stuff. Yeah. And I was just like, oh my God, this is crazy. This is like, it's amazing what they were able to identify and what I had already known. At that stage, I had forgotten about the dream as well, right? But then again, a few years passed and I was just like, something clicked, because in my head, I was like, I think I'm his sister reincarnated. And, you know, I'd joke with my mom, I'm like, I'm your auntie, so you should listen to me. You know, took full full advantage of that. I was just like, I'm your auntie. And she would laugh. And so I had this idea I was her reincarnated. But then after a while, it clicked. And I was just like, I wasn't her. I was her unborn child reincarnated. And yeah.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And that to the dream where there were children underwater who weren't alive. And because I couldn't see her, right? But also you think of the dream having the cylindrical building, you know, it could be a well, for example. And then also on top of that, you know, you think about like my fears around drowning as well. Like you think about like the unborn child was there as well at the same time. There's also prenatal trapped emotions that can occur, you know, when mother is experiencing something in particular at some period in their life when you're in their womb, that baby can also absorb those emotions as well, right? And on top of that, a drowning too. So yeah, that's my story.
I was like, I freaking love that story. And it makes me, like it makes me think about those times when we have like almost uncontrollable reactions. Like they're so big and don't have like any explanation as to why they have happened. And yet, you know, you might have to go back 1, 2, you know, I remember I had to go back 30 lifetimes one time to clear some ancestral trauma because I was in like a great position of power and I was like shot accidentally.
Wow.
Yeah, but you know, then there was like experiences in this lifetime where like I was a woman then, but like I wanted to actually be a male in this lifetime because there was that trauma around being the feminine. So it's like, it's pretty wild.
That is so fascinating. It's incredible. Like you don't think about the aspects because you think about what's happening in your life now and okay, why am I the way that I am? And then you look back on your childhood, but you don't realize you can go even deeper than that, like past this life and like stuff that you've dealt with in past lives, how that affects you to this day if you haven't processed it properly within that time.
And I wonder your thoughts on this. I heard something recently that said ancestral trauma actually only runs through the women. It actually only runs through the feminine line. It doesn't run through the male line. What are your thoughts on that? Have you heard that?
I haven't heard about that before, and I don't know like what the source is for that, but I don't believe that to be true. I feel like there's so much, especially around men, that there's so much limiting beliefs, especially around, I mean, as we know, around emotions expressing themselves and stuff like that. And I feel like, especially depression amongst men, it's so prominent as well. But, you know, we don't delve into the fact that, like, definitely there's depression that they've dealt with, like, from situations in this life, but there's a lot amongst the lineage as well, around from men, generationally. It can also come from people who were in war-torn countries. It can be because they had to be strong, had to be masculine, had to be the provider, the protector, all that stuff. So, and there's such a negative stigma around having emotions or expressing emotions because it's like, oh, that's the feminine trait. But realistically, men and women both have feminine and masculine qualities. Obviously, there is this imbalance as well. But with that being said, like I said, like souls aren't gendered. So it's like, I feel like to say only females have like the trauma or like, you know, generational trauma, I would personally say it's not true for me. What your thought?
Yeah, I agree because I see like even in my own family unit, I see so much trauma like through my dad's line, and I know that it's come from him, and it's gone back. So yeah, I don't subscribe to that either. I just thought it was a really fascinating and an interesting perspective and opinion. And yeah, I do think that through ancestral trauma, you know, like it can go 7 lifetimes back, 7 lifetimes forward, but it can even go back further than that. And I think like also we reincarnate, like we may reincarnate as a male to be able to do some clearing and healing around that lineage for that particular time. And then like we'll reincarnate into a female body, and then we'll do some clearing like that. And you know, I am of the belief that like not everybody that reincarnates, it is their mission to be able to clear ancestral trauma. I feel like it's a beautiful role, and it's a privilege, but sometimes it sucks.
Yeah, 100%. Being that person that has to clear all the baggage. It's a very important role. It's a big responsibility.
Absolutely. And sometimes when you feel like maybe things are not going to plan, or there's always something to deal with, or, you know, there's like feelings in your body, like you don't quite feel comfortable or quite right in your body, oftentimes that can be a really strong identifier that there is some like either trapped emotions or there's some trauma that's actually held within the body, and it's stored within the body because that's our avenue, that's our like pathway to access it so we can clear it.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. I think especially like what we feel in our body, like you just said, like our bodies, if we paid enough attention, like they are the best indicator on what we need to work on, or what we like. I mean, a lot of the time our body tells us what we, you know, especially if there's danger around, for example, your body gives that signal, like you start feeling heart palpitations or maybe even pains in your stomach or whatever, you know instinctively there's danger. And also your body will tell you if there are issues around trapped emotions as well. Like, for example, if you are like in a particular situation that might be a trigger or something, you will have those like physiological responses that come through. And, you know, a lot of the time people see triggers, for example, as a negative thing, but actually they're so good for us because they are identifiers and they tell us what we need to work on.
Yeah, amazing. This conversation has been so awesome, but I do have 3 questions for you before we wrap out so firstly, what is one thing that we can do to cultivate more wholeness within our lives?
So to cultivate more wholeness, I would say firstly we should embrace not just our light side but our dark shadows as well, and also like honor the lessons that they hold for us. And on top of that, to be able to connect in with our I guess all aspects of ourselves, so mind, body, spirit, heart, all those things, and giving ourselves that permission to sit, to listen, to reflect, and to heal as well. I feel like that contributes towards wholeness and alignment within us, if that makes sense.
Amazing. I love that. What is one thing that we can do to cultivate more oneness in our lives?
So with oneness, I would say, firstly, remembering that we are all interconnected. So it's not just like, you know, with people that we mirror each other. It's also situations as well. It can be like the challenges that we're facing. What is it bringing up for us? What is it telling us as well, right? And I feel like, you know, practicing kindness and gratitude and compassion, it helps us to, I guess, remove ourselves from the illusion that we are separate from one another, right? And
Absolutely.
yeah, just digging deeper. Like, I don't want to say, like, disclaimer here, like, it's not about like dismissing your own feelings in these situations, but like, you know, you can totally acknowledge your own feelings, because, you know, your feelings are valid in every situation, but also just understanding that there is a deeper layer to things as well. So you can go even deeper in your healing with that. So yeah, just understanding that we're all connected.
Amazing. I love that. And I totally agree. What is one thing that we can do to cultivate more wellness within our lives? And wellness obviously is an overall, it could be, you know, like physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, or one thing just to overall help us cultivate and experience more wellness in our lives.
Well, yeah, like you said, with, you know, spiritual, mental, physical, all that. Firstly, it's all about balance, right? And that's not easy to accomplish. It's not easy to achieve, but it's kind of aiming for that balance. Because it's not all about just what you eat or how you move your body. It's also about the energy that you bring into your life. It's about how we talk to ourselves. And it's also about how we manage our own emotions as well. And I think that's such a huge thing. So, yeah, I think there's
Amazing.
just all different aspects.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, as like this conversation has, you know, shown, like everything is interconnected, you know, it all weaves and dances together. So, you know, there's not one thing, it's everything putting together that beautifully ripples into the next. So I have two more questions for you.
Yeah, no
What
worries.
is something that you love about yourself?
About myself, I love my resilience.
Amazing.
That's one thing. I feel like I'm a very resilient person. So I always feel that no matter what obstacles are in my way, I will overcome them. And it's not to be like toxic, you know, toxic positivity or anything. It's just that I know that everything is temporary and I will overcome it. I will allow myself to feel like shit. Sometimes I just want to be, you know, just lay in bed and just cry it out or just not deal with the situation. But I know that it's always temporary. And I feel like that's translated in my life very well as well, like especially when coming to, like I said, I've been in abusive relationships before, but that's never stopped me from, you know, being like, you know, everyone is like that, you know, like I've always kind of been like, well, friendships and relationships like are stuff that I value a lot, and it's not something that's ever stopped me. And I feel like that's the same with just anything else in my life. You know, I allow myself to grieve. I allow myself to go through that heartbreak, but I know that it's all temporary. So yeah, that's one thing I love about myself.
Amazing. Sounds amazing. I love that. And your final question. So imagine you're on stage with a microphone. The whole world is listening and it's tuned in. What is the one thing or the message that you would like to convey to them?
Okay, so this one, I've got to articulate well. So I would say don't neglect yourself out of guilt for your own privilege, if that makes sense. So what I mean by that is I feel like a lot of people who in particular are standing up for a certain cause or a group of people might find themselves neglecting their own well-being, or like, you know, feel that they need to constantly do this thing to be able to show their support or help in some way. And that is fucking great. I love that people have this passion to look out for each other, look out for humanity. But then you've got the other side to it where it can be filled with ego and a lot of judgment and lack of compassion for your fellow human being as well, because you might be so laser focused on this cause that if this other person isn't doing the same thing as you, they're not voicing their opinion as much, or they're not as loud as you, that means that they either don't care or, you know, they're part of the problem. And I feel like translating that compassion that you have for your cause to your fellow human being would be just as beautiful, because you just don't know what that person is going through. And it's so important to have that same compassion for everyone, and not just for that particular thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Amazing. So great. So great. And finally, how can we serve you, and how can people find you, get in contact with you if they would like to know more about you, or they'd like to know more about your services? How can they get in contact with you, and how can we serve you?
Oh, amazing. Oh, how can you serve me? I mean, the best way you can serve me is by, you know, just wanting to heal, wanting to do the best that you can to better yourselves and just heal generational trauma, to be able to like live your best life. Like that's the best way that we can serve each other, I guess, to support each other, to raise each other up in moments like that. But for me, I mean, the services that I provide are emotion code. I do house clearings. I do animal healings as well. I do aura cleanses, and I also do monthly guided meditations over Zoom. And you can reach me at anushkaL.official, and that's on Facebook or Instagram, and by email as well, anushkaL.official@gmail.com. But yeah, Instagram is probably my main go-to. And yeah, you can book in services with me, read my blogs, have a chat to me. I'm always up for a chat. And
amazing, amazing. We'll pop all the details below as well, so people can access it. You're amazing. Thank you so much. We could talk about this for hours. Honestly, we could go way deeper into trapped emotions and way deeper into reincarnation and ancestral trauma. But yeah, thank you so much for this beautiful co-creative conversation.
Thank you.
And
it's been so fun.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.